Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 254 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined by the former heavyweight world title challenger. It is of course Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Always good when speaking to you, Eddie. That's my catchphrase when you're on. Let's dive straight into the review part of the show. There's obviously a lot to go over. We're gonna start here, and I'm gonna straight away dive into my my Spanish pronunciation, Eddie. So sit back and grasp this here. So we're gonna start here at El Malecón in Torrelavega, Cantabria, in Spain. It wasn't my best pronunciation, but anyway, we're gonna start here.
So it wasn't too bad, Joey. It was
all right. Mediocre. But anyway, let's start here. So we're going to start with a few fights on the bill, but I'm going to start here with a nice, juicy one. I don't know if you were aware of this, Eddie, but I'm going to give it to you here. Former middleweight world champion, retired 6 years ago, returned to the ring for the very first time since, picked up a win. Now 52-3 with 2 draws, a 7th round KO against Jose Fandino, who's now 15-7. Fandino was down in the 6th round and once in that 7th and final round. Who made his comeback, Eddie? Do you know?
Man, I would like to know now. I was sitting there thinking, I don't know.
The return of Sergio Martinez. He was back in action.
What?
Yeah, man, he's back. Obviously retired.
Really?
Yeah, retired 6 years ago after losing the middleweight world title to Miguel Cotto. Obviously, his knees were all, in pieces. And sorry, go on.
I would like to find out what was, aside from the knee, obviously the knees, and now he feels healthy enough to be back. That's wow. Okay.
I didn't watch it because I just couldn't really be bothered, but apparently he looked really good. I mean, obviously the opposition wasn't up to much, but apparently he looked really good. So, I don't know. It's a weird one, 6 years out the ring. There's hope for you there, Eddie, and he had 56 fights. That was his 57th fight, so there we go. Also on the bill, very good Spanish fighter, Sergio Garcia. He's now 32-0. A unanimous decision over 10 rounds for him against Pablo Mendoza, who's now 9-5. Also on the undercard, a win for former world title challenger Angel Moreno. He's now 21-4 with 2 draws, a win unanimously over 6 against Ricardo Martinez, now 7-3. Kiko Martinez as well, former world champion, was also on the card. A win for him, that's his 41st win. He's got 9 losses and 2 draws. A 3rd round TKO against Noe Raygoza, who's now 23-11 with 2 draws. I think it was a cut actually that brought that to an end. Anyway, moving out now to Germany. Talking of guys that retired. Once again, another fighter come back to the ring here after 6 years of retirement, just like Sergio Martinez. I'm going to give you a couple clues, Eddie, because I don't know if, this guy wasn't as big of a name, but still a good fighter. He was a cruiserweight world champion, Cuban, and I think he was based in Germany, and he was world champion 6 years ago. He retired as a champion, but I think he had back issues or something, and it forced him to retire. He come back after 6 years out. When were you sort of competing at cruiserweight? Was that about 6 years ago?
About that, yeah, it was around that time. Yeah, actually no, it was about 7.
Okay,
7 or so.
So he was.
So it was close.
So he was probably champion at the time. Do you remember this guy?
I remember the guy. He fought Steve Cunningham, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yep. He beat Steve, right?
Yeah.
I know exactly who it is. Can't remember his name.
Yeah, his name was
Juan
Pablo Hernandez.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Anyway, 29-1. His record was. He came back at heavyweight. He took on Kevin Kingpin Johnson over 8 rounds.
What?
And you might be quite surprised, Eddie, that Kevin Kingpin Johnson was able to knock him out in the 7th round.
What?
Yeah. Shocker. So,
yeah.
Again, I didn't watch the fight because, Barry Jones and myself did the show last week, and Barry straight away said, Kevin Kingpin Johnson, that's going to go the distance then for sure. And I just wasn't interested. I thought it was just going to be, Kevin Kingpin Johnson now, he's lost 1/3 of his fights. He's got 34 wins and 17 losses. So I didn't think he had it in him. But according to everyone...
He lost half?
Sorry, go on.
He lost half his fights now?
Well, 1/3. He's got 34 wins and 17 losses. So, it's 1 in every 3. But... Yeah. According to everyone that's watched it, he actually turned up full of motivation, which is very rare, and he was right up for it, and he got him out there in 7 rounds. So Pablo Hernandez probably should have stayed retired. In hindsight now, but a big win for Kevin Johnson nonetheless. Moving out now to Russia, a good fight here, the top of the bill at the Pyramid in Kazan. Ruslan Fafer, 25-1 going in, took on former world title challenger Alexei Papin, who of course came up short, I think in his last fight or whatever. He boxed on the Kovalev yard undercard. He came up short against God almighty, Ilunga Makabu, the guy that Tony Bellew knocked out for the Cruiserweight World title. He came up short against him in a really good fight. Anyway, Alexei Papin won this fight here. He TKO'd Fafer in 6 rounds. He's now 12-1. Moving out now, though, to the Matchroom fight camp that took place in Brentwood, Essex, of course. The pay-per-view show. I'm going to start with the undercard. Where should I start on the undercard? I'm going to start, I guess, with Alan Babich, this undefeated heavyweight. He's now 4-0 with 4 KOs. He was 3-0 with 3 KOs, of course, before the fight. Hadn't been over 2 rounds. Hadn't boxed anyone, with any motivation, anything at all to kind of give him any problems. It was a complete trio of cab drivers, if you like, and he gets in against Sean Del Winters, a tough guy from Illinois. I've heard quite a few stories about him over the years. Real good sparrer, apparently. And he went the distance with Joseph Parker. He lost. He went the distance with Joseph Parker. He went 5 rounds with Joseph Parker and lost. But he showed he was real fit in that fight. Kept coming forward. Took a complete shellacking. But showed real toughness in that fight there. So I actually thought he could perhaps come and offer something at least to Alan Babich. He can punch as well, Winters. 13-3 his record, but with 12 KOs, a few upsets against prospects on the road. He comes over here. I put a bit of money on him, to be honest, because I did fancy him. He was at a good price, and he gets absolutely battered by Babich and taken out in 2 rounds. He just didn't get going at all. One thing that was bizarre, though, the press conferences, stuff like that, he turned me into a believer, Sean Del Winters. And I thought, wow, maybe he really is going to do something. But it turned out to be all talk. He said he was in great shape and stuff like this. And I don't know, Eddie, I'm not completely kind of informed and clued up when it comes to weight. But it was a heavyweight fight. Babich weighed in at 205 pounds. Sean Del Winters weighed in at 194 pounds. So 11 pounds difference. So he weighed in as a cruiser, well within the cruiserweight limit, So very bizarre. Anyway, moving on from that. Jack Cullen, 18-2 going in against Zach Chelly, 7-1 going in. It ended up in a split draw over 10 rounds. Many felt like Chelly certainly deserved to win very wide. So a bit of a bad card there. Luther Clay against Chris Congo. Again, I picked Luther Clay to get the job done in that one. And yeah, he was TKO'd in 9 rounds. Brilliant performance from Chris Congo, who, has answered a lot of questions, really, because, it was on paper definitely his toughest opponent. Same really for Luther Clay, I suppose. But Luther Clay, just in my eyes, I felt like he's the silkier of the two. He's got the better boxing skills, but Chris Congo just had an answer to everything Luther Clay did, and Chris Congo with the size as well. He looked very big in there. Clay down in the 9th from a left hook, and then the corner threw the towel in. So no controversial ending there. It was ended properly. Brilliant win for Chris Congo, 12-0 now. That one, by the way, was for the WBO Global Welterweight title, whatever that means. Moving up to the rematch now between Katie Taylor and Delphine Persoon. Again, a real close fight. I feel for Persoon. I thought she won the first fight. This fight here, I wasn't strictly scoring it, but it felt really, really close. And once again, terrible scorecard from Victor Lachlan, by the way, 98-93, embarrassing scorecard. The other two scorecards, I believe, were very close, but again, a unanimous decision for Katie Taylor. We knew what was going to happen. There's no way in the world Delphine Persoon was going to get any favours by the judges. If it's close, it's going Katie Taylor's way, and I just couldn't believe Victor Lachlan's card, even knowing that if it was close, it was going to be going Katie Taylor's way. But all in all, good fight. Once again, Delphine Persoon, who I'd heard a lot of bad rumours about outside of the ring, her preparation and stuff like that, her condition, she showed up, made it a dogfight, just like the first fight that the pair had back in, I think it was June of last year. But yeah, got to give Delphine Persoon credit. And Katie Taylor as well, but the kind of overriding feeling online and stuff like that is that Persoon deserved to get the victory. And I feel for her, like I say, because not only is she a full-time policewoman, she's also a top quality boxer, and 2 fights now that have been close, but many felt she won in both. The majority, I think, felt she won in both fights, but there's not going to be a third, is there? Who really cares about seeing a third? So I feel bad for her, man. I don't know where she goes from here. Still a top quality fighter, but just been very, very unlucky. Anyway, leaving that there, Katie Taylor still undefeated now, 16-0. It's looking like she'll be boxing Jessica McCaskill, which will be probably a lot better than the first fight between the pair. And now the main event, Eddie, I'm going to come to you straight away. Dillian Whyte now 27-2. He was knocked out in the 5th round by Alexander Povetkin, 36-2 with a draw. That one was for the interim WBC World Heavyweight title and the vacant WBC Diamond Heavyweight title. Povetkin, of course, down twice in the 4th round. And Dillian Whyte, when he was hit with that left uppercut, no need to count. He was absolutely asleep. Just tell me about it. Obviously a humongous shock for most of us in the UK. Povetkin extremely well. You, I think, though, picked Dillian Whyte to win, so I don't know if you're as shocked as us a lot, or maybe you're more shocked, or maybe you're less shocked. What did you make of it?
Well, I mean, I'm not probably as shocked, because I feel like, with the experience obviously lies with Povetkin and the boxing skills and know-how, and he knows his way around the ring. Even though he's 40, he's getting up in age. he's already up in age, but there's a lot of things that he does, and I don't know if people are going to agree, but I didn't see the fight as other people seen it. You understand what I'm saying? Like they were saying like, oh, he was somewhat getting dominated. I mean, maybe I'm hearing it wrong. It was like, oh, he was getting dominated. Dillian was controlling the fight pretty easily, pretty comfortably, and he looked every bit of 40. And I'm like, yeah, I guess he looked every bit of 40, but he didn't necessarily look like he was getting dominated. I feel like he was given almost as good as he was getting until the 4th round when he got dropped twice. I mean, there wasn't really much to differentiate the two. I mean, I think Dillian might have been winning the rounds, but it wasn't like he was winning them by a lot. And I seen similar mistakes from Dillian that I've seen in the past. I wasn't being hypercritical of him or criticizing him for not being able to do this or do that, but I was always
standing tall.
I was always
standing tall.
Yeah, standing way too tall, locked at the knees, not really able to honestly make certain adjustments to that. I really feel like he should be a little more bent at the knees, a little more sturdy in some of his defensive tactics. But I mean, look, he's been winning. But if you really pay attention to a lot of the fights, even when he was winning, some of these fights toward the end of the fight, guys started to land shots on him, and then, like even at the end of the fight with the Cuban guy, I keep forgetting his name, and I actually was going to fight him at one point, Oscar Rivas. He was getting caught with some shots, and buzzed and stuff like that. And same thing with when he was fighting Joseph Parker. It's a similar situation, and I keep going back to, okay, now Dillian's a powerful guy. He can punch. He has good range. He's a much better boxer than in the past. He's improving his entire game. But that one aspect of his game, I'm not saying his defense is terrible or he's not, but him standing straight up at the knees, locking his knees, and not really being as sturdy in his positioning, because everything starts from the ground up. That is the most important part. Your footwork, your footwork, the way you stand, how sturdy your stance is. Those things all play a huge part in your overall game. And what I say is, if you don't build a house on quicksand. Now, I'm not saying Dillian's house was built on quicksand, but he's definitely got some unproven ways with the way his positioning is. You understand what I'm saying? And you can be successful with it, obviously, because he's been very successful, and he was even successful in this fight. But there's always that one chance that you got this old guy, this old dog in front of you. And to me, when it happened, Dillian threw a right hand that he really didn't need to throw, because Povetkin was already past basically his elbow. So there was really no need for him to extend that shot out there. It was already gone. I just think he did it off a reflex and maybe made a mistake. Once that right hand left his chin and he extended it over top of Povetkin's body, the left uppercut was the only shot that he could throw. It was a perfectly timed shot. The hand was out, and that's what. If you watch the video of the fight, which I've watched many times, and you see the shot that Dillian threw, it was like, why? If he doesn't throw that shot, maybe he never gets hit with that perfect shot at that time. Maybe he gets hit with the shot, maybe it doesn't catch him as clean. But when he put that shot out there, it leaned slightly over, just enough for Povetkin to get that left uppercut to land perfectly on the chin. And you saw the result of it.
Yeah, and, I want to go over a few things what you said. I didn't really think that Dillian Whyte was dominating as well. I think the commentary was pretty bad. I don't know if what you've seen has been like a DAZN thing where the commentators will be slightly different, but over here on Sky, they were saying like Dillian's in total control. I actually gave Povetkin all three of the first 3 rounds before he gets dropped, obviously twice in the fourth, but it was a slow start from both guys. Povetkin, if anything, was the aggressor. He was on the front foot for the first 2 rounds for sure. He was uncocking the left hook, the famous left hook, multiple times, and I feel like White become sort of the aggressor in the 3rd round early on, but even then he went back to kind of boxing off the back foot. But it was a really slow paced fight through the first 3 rounds, and no one had landed anything telling at all. Getting into the 4th round, where the drama unfolded, initially, Povetkin gets caught square on. He didn't appear to be hurt at all. It was like a short left hook of Dillian Whyte right on the inside. Povetkin also, obviously walked on to an uppercut late on. And I don't know, I was thinking, it seemed like his punch resistance had just evaporated overnight almost, because the shots didn't look big, and to be honest, he didn't really look that hurt. He just kept going down. And of course, it becomes a 10-7 round, but I had it all square going into the 5th round because of that. I gave Povetkin the first 3. I will just say this. Because Dillian White, obviously, and Povetkin were both trading sort of left hooks to the body. And Povetkin, I felt, was more sort of gung-ho with his left hook. And I, straight away in the first round, I saw that Dillian White didn't like these left hooks. I mean, obviously, it sounds silly. Who likes a left hook anyway? But he wasn't reacting well to these left hooks from the first couple ones that Povetkin threw to the body. And I don't know what it was. He just looked a bit disorganized from the very first 2 or 3 that Povetkin threw. And I was speaking to my dad at the time, and I said, I tell you what, this don't look right. Dillian White, I can see him getting knocked out. That's what I said, and I back it up. I went and put money on the 5th round, and it was 40-1, and it came in.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I put a really, really small stake on it, so I didn't really win much. But, I spread it out over the rounds from, first round right up to the 12th. So I put a little amount on each round. But I don't know. I saw it in the first 30 seconds. I'm not trying to say I'm some boxing flipping... I don't know, some boxing crystal ball guy, but I just saw something. He just didn't look organised. When Povetkin was throwing it, he looked a bit worried. He looked a bit scared for me. No one else seemed to pick it up. Maybe I'm crazy, but I just saw something, Eddie. And then
I tell you what. You're not far off what I was thinking throughout the whole thing. It just looked like he was reacting.
Yeah.
But not like you would expect a guy who's not overly confident, but super confident in what's going on. It's like, I remember when I was fighting Povetkin and he was throwing shots at me, and I just always felt, until obviously I couldn't punch back, but I always felt under control. And it's the same thing with anybody. Even when I was fighting Vladimir early on, before I got caught with the right hand, I felt 100% sturdy and under control. Like nothing could knock me off my zone, off my pedestal. With Dillian, and there's certain fights and there's certain guys that you can see that they're just not comfortable with what's coming at them. You know what I'm saying? And it's almost like, to me, when Dillian dropped him twice, it was almost like a relief to him. Like, oh man, I hope I get this guy out of here because I don't want him to be in front of me all night type thing, And it's like, I really agree. It really seemed as if he wasn't all there. And it's disappointing to see him get stopped like that because I really wanted to see him win. He's a younger guy. He's got a future. He's got a title shot coming up. He got a lot of things that could happen for him. And to be derailed like this is just unfortunate.
Yeah, and again, it speaks volumes about how good of a fighter Povetkin is, because you mentioned, Eddie, when he beat you all those years ago, to think that he's still one of the very best in the world now. I think he's going to be 41 next month, something like that. He is such a brilliant fighter, and he has been for such a long time. I don't know why sometimes he gets overlooked. Even like people going into this fight felt that Dillian White was going to knock him out. I know it nearly came true when he was down a couple of times, but the disrespect he sometimes gets, I never in a million years, I said it to anyone who would listen to me, no way in the world is Dillian White going to knock him out. That's what I was saying to everyone. I thought Dillian White would probably get it on points. I said that. I felt he'd get it on points, and it might even be very controversial, even very close. But the 5th round, obviously, Povetkin threw a jab. He kind of ducked to his left, found space for an excellently timed left uppercut, and that was it. Like I say, that was all she wrote. I want to go through a couple sort of quick things. I don't want to spend too much time on this fight here, but I do feel gutted for Dillian White because there was so much on the line. He's took about 8 really tough fights in a row, and he didn't need to. He could have sat on the position, stuff like that. I feel very sorry for him on one hand because he comes so far for this big setback. It's a big setback right at the final gallop, if you like. He was about to get made, basically mandated properly. They were going to send a time period for the winner of Wilder Fury 3, and whoever'd win has got to defend really quickly against White. But I feel sorry for him for that respect. But also, when you actually think about it, I think he's headlined about 5 pay-per-view shows now, Dillian White. Hasn't ever won a world title, and he's made millions of pounds. So I don't feel too sorry for him financially, but just in terms of his achievements, you can't help but feel bad for him. I'm kind of hoping that the WBC might find some sympathy somewhere to kind of do something for him. But if I'm not mistaken, I think the WBC tweeted out pretty quickly after the fight, "Congrats to Povetkin," you know. So I don't know, but yeah, you know, it is a tough one.
Tough situation.
And I just want to reiterate once again, you know, a knockout loss like that, even though it was devastating, it doesn't mean that Dillian White's done. You know, it doesn't mean that, even though he's got the 2 knockout losses, obviously, to Povetkin and AJ. Again, it's just another one on the list, the long list. It's becoming of upsets during the quarantine. We've seen upsets almost every week.
The good thing about.
Go on.
Sorry, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, do it.
No, I was just going to say, obviously, another factor is that Dillian White changed his trainer, kind of, you know, a few weeks or whatever it was, or a couple months before the actual fight, and he obviously, you know, got with this new trainer that no one really sort of knew. I known him. We had him on last week's show, but you know, he's very kind of unknown to people like that. You know, he's not known, and already people are saying he should run back to his old trainer with his tail between his legs, stuff like that. You know, I feel for him as well. There's obviously this rematch clause that was put in place on the contract, Eddie. They're talking already about getting a rematch on for November, as soon as November, or at the worst, December, to basically be ready for a Fury fight or a Wilder fight, whoever wins, by about February, if he were to avenge the loss to Povetkin. Short as possible, Eddie. Good idea or not to get the immediate rematch in with Povetkin that soon?
Well, that all depends on how he's doing. You know, what the damage was. I mean, it was one shot, so it's good that, you know, most of the time guys try to, you know, like they'll go rounds and rounds of getting dominated and knocked around, kind of like AJ did when he fought Andrew Ruiz, and he just kept trying, even though, you know, it was basically, you know, futile. But it was one shot. He's going to take, in my opinion, when stuff like that happens, take the rematch. But take the rematch in a time frame that you're comfortable, that you're ready. You know, you don't want to do it just because, you know, emotions are getting to you. You know, I feel like I'm better than him. I can beat him. And you get back in there too soon, and then you end up damaging yourself permanent. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the biggest problems with a lot of these guys getting the CTE and these different things, is constantly going back and damaging yourself over and over and over when you're not even fully recovered. I don't know how Dillian's feeling. I don't know what's the level of hematoma that he had in his head and all of those things. And, you know, is he's going to be fully recovered by that time? But definitely he needs to think about it before he just jumps right back in there and fights again. I mean, you got to think about your career. Shit, if you wait another 2 or 3 months after that and get the fight done then, and you feel great and you win and you look impressive, then you have your opportunity to fight for the title. Maybe you'll be better off, better prepared, better. You'll feel better just in general. You'll have a better camp. All these things play play a big factor in your future, you know, endeavors as a fighter. So I think, I'm not trying to say for him not to take it. I'm saying that he should definitely think about taking it as soon as he's ready, but not a second before that. You know what I mean? I think the fact that Povetkin has the belt, or well, the position, let's say, he's going to be happy with whatever he gets, and you know, he's probably eager to go back out and prove that he can do it again. So I don't think that they'll have a problem with waiting. But if he's not prepared, if he's not ready, you know what I mean, at that time, if the WBC grants him that stay, he should take it. You know what I mean? I really think he should think before he just jumps back in there too fast. You know.
We shall wait and see. Another thing I kind of asked our followers on Twitter is that who do you now rate as, I'm not asking you this, Eddie, but I asked them, who do you now rate as the 4th best heavyweight in the world? Because everyone's pretty much got Wilder, Fury, Joshua in whatever order they want, 1, 2, and 3. Number 4, no one's quite sure on. A lot of people would have said Dillian White, but now he's been beaten by Povetkin. A guy who, in his last fight, clearly should have had a loss to Michael Hunter. There's argument for Hunter. There's argument for Usyk, but he hasn't really. He's only had the one fight against Chaz Witherspoon at heavyweight. He didn't look amazing that night. And some people say Andy Ruiz. I can understand why you'd say that, so no argument with that. But it's opened up a lot of questions for who's on that 4th or 5th spot. If anyone didn't have their say on the poll I put out, we had 100 and something votes or whatever. If you didn't give your opinion and you want to, it's not too late. Send it in at BoxHard Podcast on Twitter. We'll read it out next week and discuss it. So very interesting things in the heavyweight division as ever. I want to say this as well. I'm not very good at this impression, but I'm going to do one in a sec, Eddie. You can't do a Donald Trump impression, can you?
No, I cannot.
Right. Did you see what he said? I think it was last week or something when he was in Easton.
No, I didn't. What did he say? I missed it.
It was golden. I wish we could play it, but I'm gonna try to. So he's up on a stage or whatever, outside somewhere in Easton, PA, and he's. I'm gonna try the impression. This is bad. No one get mad at this because this is. I don't really practice my Donald Trump. But he's up on the stage and he's going. The great people of Eastern PA, whatever. I can't do it. Anyway, he says the great.
Just do it, man.
God, let me try.
Do it, Joe. Come on, man. Don't give up on yourself.
So he basically says, "Man, right? You're really putting me on the spot. Let's just try. Here we go." So he goes, you know how he does. The great people of Eastern PA, and he goes, fantastic place. I can't do it. I don't know why I can't do it. Normally I could do it. I can't do it right now for some reason.
You got the middle block right now.
Yeah,
I know.
I just can't do it. So he goes, the people of Eastern PA, very nice place. I don't even know what accent was that? Right, let me just regroup.
No, just keep going with it. Just keep going with it, man. Don't stop yourself.
Right, he says, I just can't do it. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to have to do it in my own voice. So he says, the people of Eastern PA, beautiful place. And he goes, how's Ernie doing? How's Ernie doing? He says. He goes, yeah, listen to this. He goes, how's Ernie? Remember Ernie? How's Ernie? How's he doing? Great guy, Ernie. And everyone's like, what? And he goes, Ernie Holmes was a heavyweight world champion. Ernie Holmes. Ernie Holmes, right? And someone shouts out, Larry. And he goes, oh, yeah, Larry Holmes. Oh, I know another one called Ernie Holmes. That's why I said that. He knows another one. What, another heavyweight world champion called Ernie Holmes? Ernie Shavers wasn't even a world champion.
I know.
But he goes, Ernie Holmes. I know another one called Ernie Holmes. So he knows another heavyweight world champion that we don't know called Ernie Holmes. But that was it. So Larry Holmes.
Yo, are you serious?
Oh my God,
Larry
Donald
Holmes.
Trump. We love Donald Trump's crazy. Larry Holmes went on Twitter. This kind of annoyed the real Larry Holmes. He goes on Twitter and he makes a tweet. He says something along the lines of, my name is Larry. He retweets and actually tags President Trump. He says, my name is Larry, and he puts a hashtag saying, we are not friends. So it really annoyed the Eastern assassin. And who wants to be called Ernie Holmes? Anyway, it was just so funny because I'm going to send you the clip afterwards. It was absolutely brilliant. And someone in the comments said, I love how he just can't admit that he got it wrong. He messed up. He has to actually say, I know another one called Ernie Holmes. I love some of the things he comes out with. He is.
So how's Ernie?
Yeah, that's what he says. How's Ernie? Great guy, Ernie. Great guy. Fantastic. But he says he goes, when he corrects himself, he goes on to say, gave Muhammad Ali his toughest fight. Great fighter. Oh man, it was terrible. But anyways,
Yeah.
I apologize as well for my awful impression there. But
No, it's cool. It's the funniest part of the whole thing is that he really thought it was Ernie.
Yeah, Ernie. That's what I mean. Talking of Ernie Shavers, by the way, you brought him up. I bought a glove the other day. It's turned up now. It's arrived in my possession. I bought it from the States on eBay. It's a signed Ernie Shavers glove. But he famously, rather than just signs his signature like most boxers would do, he does that, but he also puts a quote on the gloves, a quote that Ali said. And, he signed the glove and it literally reads, I've got it here, it reads, Ali said, and then it's got speech, what are they called again? What are they called? Speech marks. And it says, Ali said, speech marks, Ernie hit me so hard that my kinfolk back in Africa felt it. So that was a cool thing to grab, and it was cheap as well. So if anyone's listening, that's a pretty cool thing to own there, I feel. Anyway, getting back onto the review part of things, I apologise. We're going to now go to the Fly By Night rehearsal studios in Worcestershire, United Kingdom. Never heard of this place, but anyway, it was on Channel 5. Mick Hennessy back in business. Your former promoter for a brief time, Eddie. Anyway, this card here was topped by Shakam Pitters, who's now 14-0, a unanimous decision win against Chad Sugden for the British light heavyweight title, the vacant British light heavyweight title. So Shakam Pitters, undefeated British champion. I want to see him in big fights. There's a lot of fights there. I want to see him take on the likes of Craig Richards, who, of course, Chad Sugden had a draw with last time out. Also on the undercard, Isaac Chamberlain returned after about 2 years out the ring, something like that. He's now 11-1. He took out in just 3 rounds Anthony Woolery, who's now 2-3. A body shot finish for Isaac Chamberlain. Moving out now to the Microsoft Theatre in LA, California. This one was on Fox. I didn't watch it, but it was for the vacant WBC Silver welterweight title. Sean Porter, from what I've heard, absolutely beat the you-know-what out of Sebastian Formella, who was actually undefeated, 22-0, one-sided landslide, unanimous decision over 12 for Porter, who's now 31-3 with a draw. Moving out now to the bubble in the MGM Grand, Las Vegas, Nevada. 2 fights to mention. A win for former world champion Rob Brandt. He's now 26-2. A retirement win for him after 5 rounds against his opponent Vitaly Kopelenko, who's now 28-3. But the main event, former light heavyweight world champion Alida Alvarez, 25-1. Of course, the one loss to Kovalev after he knocked Kovalev out in the first fight, then lost on points in the rematch. So a good fighter, Alvarez. He took on the hard punch in danger man, Eddie. Who wants to fight this guy? Joe Smith Jr., 25-3 of, where's he from? Is he Long Island, I think? Joe Smith?
Yes. Yeah. Is it Long Island or is it
Rhode Island?
Rhode
One
Island.
of them.
There
I think it's Long Island.
I think it's Rhode Island.
I don't know. Anyway.
I think it might be Rhode Island.
He's from somewhere in New York. But but yeah, dangerous man is Joe Smith Jr., and he proved it once again here. He doesn't always kind of get the credit. He gets, sometimes kind of disrespected for being a one-dimensional fighter. And this time around, he was less one-dimensional than I've ever seen before. Obviously such a hard puncher, carries power in both hands. He was very, very creative, Joe Smith Jr. And Alvarez, who had the far superior pedigree, and of course, like I say, being an ex-world champion, I thought he'd be able to work Smith out. He can punch himself. A lot of people felt that that Alvarez could probably get the knockout. Myself and Barry last week didn't see it going the distance, and it didn't. But another underdog win, like I mentioned earlier on in the show. Joe Smith Jr. took his man out in the 9th round. So a brilliant win for Joe Smith Jr., which I think gets him a world title shot. They're talking about Beterbiev. He welcomes that fight because he is a little bit crazy in a good way. Moving out now to the final two cards to mention, actually. We're going to review this one here really quickly. It was an MTK Global show that took place just yesterday at the Production Park Studios in Yorkshire, United Kingdom. A win for Gary Cully over Craig Woodruff. So Gary Cully now 11-0. Lee McGregor with a win against Ryan Walker. A good win there for Lee McGregor, now 9-0. Darren Tetley lost his 20-0 going in against Liam Taylor, 21-1 with a draw, a win for Liam Taylor. And the main event, Lewis Crocker against Louis Green, 12-1 Green, Lewis Crocker 11-0. That one was for the vacant WBO European welterweight title, a win there for Lewis Crocker. And like I said, a final card to mention. We're going to go over to Australia, down under at the Queensland Country Bank Stadium. Tim Tszyu, the son of Costa Tszyu, now 16-0. A win for him. Very, very, very one-sided. I'm going to be completely honest and say I didn't watch this one either, but I've seen reports. Very, very one-sided beatdown against former world champion, the Pacquiao Slayer, Jeff Horn. So Tim Tszyu with the 8th round TKO. Horn was down twice in the 3rd round, twice in the 6th round, and I believe the referee stopped it. There was a bit of confusion. Some people said he quit. I don't know. It was for the IBF Australasian Super Welterweight title and the WBO Global Super Welterweight title, but brilliant win for Tim Tszyu, who I kind of thought, I mean, I'd never really seen much of him before this, but obviously Jeff Horn, you know, for me, beat Pacquiao fair and square. Tough guy, if nothing else. Very awkward, very fit, and it just seems like he is really burned out so quick. You know, someone tweeted saying, how on earth has he had under 25 fights? And he just looks like, you know, like he's been in wars for his whole career. It seemed to have just burned out so quickly. One interesting factor that is really political and real BS, to be completely honest with you, but it didn't matter in the end. But one of the judges for the fight, one of the official judges, can't remember his name, but he was actually a corner man for Costa Tszyu, Tim Tszyu's dad. So back in the day, he was a corner man. Then he ends up being appointed one of the officials, and then they find out that this judge has got his own private gym. Who's been training there for the whole of training camp? Tim Tszyu himself. So that was BS, man. He basically should have been wearing a Team Tszyu tracksuit while he was judging, but they didn't need him in the end because Tim Tszyu dominated and got his man out of there. But that's really it for the review part of the show. We're just going to bring in a couple moments the sole guest on this week's podcast, the undefeated 5-0 20-year-old heavyweight, 5-0, 5 KOs, 6'4", Tyson Fury sparring partner, Mr. Jared Anderson. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated heavyweight prospect with an exciting 100% knockout ratio. It is, of course, Mr. Jared Anderson. Jared, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, my friend. It really is. So, Jared, I'm excited to speak with you here because I doubt you've done tons of interviews with UK media outlets, so I'm happy to be doing this and letting our listeners in on a bit of insight into yourself and, of course, your boxing career. Let's start with your nickname, Big Baby, just like Jarrell Miller. Why, when, and how did that become your nickname?
I was a bigger and heavier set kid growing up. I was just big at a young age. Really, that's all it is to it. Being in the gym, they thought I was a bigger kid, so they just start calling me Big Baby.
Okay, fair enough. I like the backstory to it. Obviously, you know, you boxed amateur for a while before turning pro. What kind of was your favorite moment of the amateurs?
My favorite moment, I probably would say winning the Brandanen Cup in Germany. That was kind of a key thing for me. It was probably the key moment where I just knew, like, oh yeah, this is my go-to. This is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life, or do for a career at least.
And what was that like? Obviously, you mentioned they're going to Germany. Do you like traveling? Obviously, coming to Europe for that.
It's all right. It's not my favorite thing to do, especially not flying that far, but I like it though.
Okay, cool. So getting on to your pro career, Jared, obviously you're 5-0 with 5 KOs. You haven't, boxed anyone of note just yet, of course. Like we say, you're only 5 fights in, but you've only boxed one guy with a losing record. So it's an exciting start. In your last 2 fights, you've stopped guys that have never been stopped before. And today actually marks exactly 10 months since your pro debut. Things are going very well, I take it, Jared.
Very well, very well. I'm excited and happy with the way Top Rank is moving me.
And of course, it's been well documented that you've shared rounds in the gym with the likes of Tyson Fury. I know you've probably been asked this 1,000 times, but what was that like for you, obviously, to experience something like that, to be around, a fighter like that so early on in your pro career? These kind of things pay dividends. People die for these opportunities, if you like.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I learned a lot. Took a lot from it and just soaked all the game and all the information up to do just to better my career. It was a great experience learning what it was kind of like, in the UK and what the differences were of us growing up and him growing up. So it was a great experience. The sparring was great. The sparring partners were even better. Spending time with them. We were a great group of guys, and we had a blast. It was a great time. We went bowling, we bonded and did stuff.
Excellent, man, excellent. And obviously, you're participating in heavyweight boxing. Do you watch the heavyweight division as a fan, or do you not watch much boxing?
The heavyweight division, I'm not really. I mean, I watch competition. Like if we got fights, kind of similar 5-5, or if you only got 7, something like that, then I'll watch and see what the competition is like. But nah, I don't too much watch everybody else unless it's like a world title fight or something.
Did you get to see anything of the fight on the weekend, the big upset over here?
Yes, I did. Well, I not really. I didn't watch the actual fight. I just watched the highlights.
Okay. Quite a shocking one for most of us UK fans over here, a big spanner in the works there. But getting back onto yourself, Jared, your next fight obviously is penciled in back in the bubble, September 5th as part of the Jamel Herring undercard. Is there any news on an opponent just yet for that, or not just yet?
Yeah, Rodney Hernandez is his name.
Rodney Hernandez. Okay, you've caught me off guard a tiny bit there, but I've heard of him before. Who's he boxed before? I'm sure he boxed... He boxed someone recently, Martin Bacoli. That's how I know. Yeah, he boxed Martin Bacoli, a guy who's kind of based over here. Okay, so a guy that's mixed it with a lot of guys. Quite a lot of experience, Rodney Hernandez. Obviously, again, he's been in there with the likes of Effie Ajagba, a guy that you know very well.
Yeah. Stablemate of mine.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, that's these kind of fights. You're boxing a guy like Rodney Hernandez. As I say, kind of been around the block, boxed a lot of different guys, not just the likes of a Jagba in the States. He's pretty well travelled. He's boxed many guys from different continents even. Do you kind of use it as a measuring stick a little bit? Do you try and compare your win to his other defeats?
I always do. It's kind of, I always look at it like that. Because it just, the styles are the same, and I just think that, if he can do it, I can do it. So, sparring with certain people just kind of helps out with that.
Okay. And this will be your 3rd time fighting in the bubble. What's your experience like fighting with no crowds? I mean, it doesn't seem to bother you. You still seem to take people out, whether people are watching or not, ringside.
Yeah, a fight is a fight for me. Cameras or not, sparring is, amongst just you and your partner. So not really do it affect me. I'm just, when I'm in there. Once I hear the bell ring, I just go into a mode.
And again, you mentioned there you like to kind of compare the way you fight against guys to how other guys have fought against the same opponent. I can imagine, though, knocking every guy out, that must give you a real heap of satisfaction. But do you kind of think at one stage you might have to kind of tone down, if you like, on the punching power just so you can get some rounds in early? You almost need rounds because you're just blowing everyone away.
In this game, you don't get paid for overtime. So the more chances, the more rounds, the more seconds you take, taking chances of getting hit and bigger punches coming, or somebody coming for a desperation shot or dirty tricks. So I know a lot of people who are getting their butts handed to them, and next thing you know, they tried something slick or something to hurt you to get you, get them more in the lead or get them ahead. We don't get paid for overtime. So if they ready to go, we're going to get them out of there.
I love that answer there. And just coming down to the final couple questions, Jared, we mentioned you've been a pro for 10 months. You've had the 5 fights. It's about to be 6. In a realistic world, where do you believe you can kind of get to in perhaps a year from now?
As far as the number of fights?
Yeah, I suppose the number of fights / the level. Where do you want to be? Where do you believe you can be in a realistic world?
I see ranked top 25 with 15 fights in a year's time.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair view, actually. I'm excited for your development. Like I say, I'm going to put you on the spot a tiny bit here. This is a question that we must ask to everyone that we speak to from overseas, Jared. I haven't warned you about it, so I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. Favorite UK fighter? Any era, can be a guy that retired 155 years ago or a guy that's still lacing them up now to this day. Favorite UK fighter, who springs to mind? Is it Big Tyson Fury?
It would have to be, yeah, it definitely. More because of his charisma, how he carries himself, what he's accomplished and what he's come from. So I would have to say Tyson. I'm not a big person on what they do in the ring. It's what you do outside the ring. I've seen him give to charities and stuff like that. He's a real kind-hearted man, and that's my biggest. That's the biggest thing I like about him.
Yeah, an inspirational man. Outside and inside the ring, you said it good there. And just finally, Jared, where can people follow you? Are you on social media? I'm not sure if you're on Twitter. Where can people follow you anyway if they decide to? I'm
on Twitter, Team Big Baby, 2 Y's at the end of baby. On Instagram, Jared Anderson 419. And Facebook, Jared Anderson. You want to get on Facebook too. Absolutely. So everyone listening to me, please go and jump on this bandwagon because it's going to go a long, long way, I believe. But listen, Jared, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you, my friend. Everyone loves a heavyweight that looks good and can knock people out. You also sound good too, and I believe more and more UK fans will get behind you as your journey progresses. Thank you for your time, my friend. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, the preview part, just actually need to see if there's any news before we get into that. Hold my horses, I should. A fight announcement. Josh Taylor, he will be taking on Apinon Kongsong. That's rescheduled there. Obviously, it was supposed to take place, then the pandemic completely killed that event, and now that one will be taking place at the BT Sports Studio on Saturday, September 26th. Also, Frank Warren has announced a card for September 12th, again back at the BT Sports Studio, I believe. Could be wrong. I think it's the BT Sports Studio, but anyways, the fights on the bill are what is important. We get to see Echo Esserman take on Cedric Paynaud. Of course, Paynaud being the Frenchman that gave Conor Benn nightmares. He takes on Echo Esserman. A good fight between Mark Heffron and Denzel Bentley for the IBF European middleweight title. Good fight there. Nathan Gorman I think it's his first fight back since losing to Daniel Dubois, or has he already had some kind of low-level win? I can't remember. He takes on former Daniel Dubois opponent Richard Lartey. That's the guy with the nice shiny bald head and the bright yellow kind of / orangey, gingery, gold kind of beard. He looks like some kind of Father Christmas from the future, but very, very tough African fighter, At one point against Dubois, they just decided to throw their boxing skills out the window and just go punch for punch. And for a while, it looked quite scary. I think he had Dubois, in a bit of trouble, dare I say, for a few seconds. They were just trading big shots, trading bombs, and the card is topped by Anthony Yarde in his first fight. Well, no, not his first fight, because he had a meaningless fight really in Spain against someone who was terrible, but a proper fight here, really his first kind of proper fight since losing to Sergey Kovalev. He takes on Dex Spellman, who he's just come off a loss to who did he lose to? He lost to Lyndon Arthur, I think it was, wasn't it? So Dex Spellman back. Not had much notice, I don't think, because he was boxing, was it 2 weeks ago, something like that. The crazy thing about this pandemic is they're announcing big fight cards like 2 weeks from the day they announce it, it's on, which is very different, because usually we have to wait about 4 to 5 months for the proper promotion build-up. Anyway, that's it for the news. Moving on to the previewing, we're going to start here with a card that takes place tomorrow, Friday, 28th of August, in the Havel Studios in Berlin, Germany. A good fight. I really, really like this fight. Jack Kulkai, obviously a very good amateur. Did he win a version of a world title or something like that? Can't remember. Jack Kulkai, 28-4. Obviously has losses to the likes of Demetrius Andrade in what was actually quite a close fight. I think Andrade had to travel to Germany for that one, if I'm not mistaken. He's also got losses to the likes of Sergei Derevianchenko and Masio Selecki. So, no shame in those losses. He still is a good fighter. He takes on, who's, a guy here who's really stepping up in class, Abbas Barao, who's obviously 9-0. I'm not sure if he's still training with Adam Booth or not. I think he is. So that should be really, really good. I really like that fight. That's a risky fight there for Abbas Barao, who's still building up. That's a 12-rounder as well in Germany there. Moving out now to Florida at the Osceola Heritage Park. Cassius Chaney, undefeated heavyweight, friend of the show, 18-0 in an 8-rounder against Chauncey Welliver, who's got quite an amazing record, actually. 57 wins, 12 losses and 5 draws. Who is Chauncey Welliver, Eddie? You must know this guy. Seems like he's boxed everyone.
That name sounds familiar. I can't even. He's definitely one of those guys who's obviously fought a lot of guys. I just can't remember. I can't remember. It's like some of the guys I fought early on in my career, even like a Ross Purity kind of guy.
Yeah, he's
tough guy.
Alexander Ustinov, Lucas Brown, Sherman Williams, Burke. No, who's that? Yeah, Burke Cooper. Galen Brown. Twice against Galen Brown.
What? Oh my God!
Mike
Galen rises again.
Odlanier Solis.
Oh wow, he's been in a lot of guys.
Yeah, he's boxed quite a few guys. John Sargent as well. Didn't you box him?
Yeah.
Yeah. John Sargent. He lost to him on points. He boxed a guy called.
He lost to Jones. Wait.
Yeah, he lost to John Sargent. John Sargent wasn't awful though, was he?
Listen, I mean, I'm not saying he was awful. I don't know, because I walked through him like he wasn't even there. Like, I mean, it was just.
Who was better then?
I remember
Who was better then, John Sargent or Marcus Rody?
Shit, honestly, I don't know.
I'm putting you on the spot because he beat Marcus Rody twice. John Sargent.
He beat what?
John Sargent did, yeah.
What?
Yeah, man.
When I fought John Sargent, I don't think he touched me. Well, I'm not even trying to.
You said not even in a clinch.
No, and I hit him. I remember hitting with these 2 body shots, and then I knocked him out with a double jet right. It was. He took punishment in that fight, and I think it went 2 rounds.
Oh, I can't remember. But this guy,
I think it was
this guy Chauncey Welliver, this is going to be his 75th fight. He's got 12 losses, 3 by KO. If Cassius Chaney can stop him, I suppose it's some kind of a statement. Moving out now to the BT Sports Studio in Stratford, London. This one on Saturday, of course. Willie Hutchinson was supposed to box Luke Blackledge. I don't think that's happening now. Not quite sure if Willie's going to still be on the card, but I hope he is. He's a friend of the show, 11-0. David Adelaide, I don't think no opponent just yet, 2-0. A brilliant fight between Sammy Maxwell, 13-0 for the WBO European Super Lightweight title against former EBU European champion Joe Hughes, 17-5 with a draw. I actually fancy Joe Hughes to possibly pull off the upset in that one. That is a really good fight, gone under the radar massively. Also, undefeated Sonny Edwards, 14-0, defends his IBF International Super Flyweight title against Thomas Asomba, 10-5, way better than his record suggests. Very, very tough fighter, Asomba. And the main event, Daniel Dubois, 14-0, takes on Ricardo Snyders, 18-1, a Dutch fighter who, like I said, is a former cruiserweight, so I'm not expecting much from him. That one's for the WBO International Heavyweight title. Daniel Dubois probably gets him out of there in 1 or 2 rounds. I don't even think it goes to the third. Snyders hasn't even had too much notice either. Moving out now to the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles, California. This one is not that great of a card really, but Alfredo Angulo, 26-7. I didn't even think he was still boxing. 12-0. He takes, sorry, not 12-0, 12 rounds. He takes on former world champion, friend of the show, all-round good guy, Caleb Truax, 31-4 with 2 draws. But the main event, Erislandy Lara, 26-3 with 3 draws, takes on Greg Vendetti, 22-3 with a draw. I didn't even know, and this is quite embarrassing, but I didn't even know that Erislandy Lara was still a world champion in 2020. This one is for his WBA Super, not WBA Super, WBA World Super Welterweight title, and also the vacant IBO World Super Welterweight title as well. So, yeah, it's been a year since we last saw Lara in the ring. Moving out now to the Venice Arena in Florida, USA. One fight to mention, really. Former world champion Christopher Rosales, former opponent of Andrew Selby, Cal Yafai. Charlie Edwards beat him, of course, for the world title. 29-5, he takes on Jano Tonte, who's 9-8 in a weird 8-rounder there in Florida. And coming down to the last couple cards, going to go here to the bubble in the MGM Grand, Las Vegas, Nevada. Decent fight between Arnold Barboza Jr., 23-0 in a 10-rounder against Tony Lewis, who is 29-3. But the main event, a brilliant fight. Jose Carlos Ramirez, 25-0, defending his WBC and WBO World Super Lightweight titles against former world champion Victor Postol. Brilliant fight. Victor Postol, 31-2. The 2 losses came to Terence Crawford and Josh Taylor. He got beat by Crawford quite handily, but Josh Taylor, who many would say is the best 140 fighter in the world, had a real close fight with him. Again, the scorecards didn't reflect that, but it was a very close fight. It'll be very interesting to see how Jose Carlos Ramirez deals with him. Actually, there could be, I'm going to look at those odds on Postol because that is tempting. He is a really good fighter. Over 12 rounds there. Of course, I think it's the 3rd time they've had this fight on. It was supposed to originally take place in China, and I think it was even going to take place in Wuhan, where the coronavirus started. So that got put off, of course, and then it's kind of gone from here to there. It's finally happening this Saturday. Brilliant fight. And then a card that takes place next Wednesday, the 2nd of September. Just going to quickly preview it here because by the time we record the show, the fights would have already took place next week. A decent fight between Harlem Eubank, 9-0, cousin of Chris Eubank Jr. He takes on Martin McDonough. That Martin McDonough lost to Daniel Egbenike, I think it was, at York Hall. Martin McDonough now 8-1. Decent fighter, too much of a runner really, I think, but could be interesting. Style clash there. Dan Aziz, 11-0, takes on Andre Sterling, 11-2. That one's for the English light heavyweight title over 10 rounds. Both men are from Lewisham in London, which is quite a small area really. It's really quite small. They probably can't even both go to the local supermarket without bumping into each other. So that's a very close rivalry kind of thing going on there. Brilliant fight. And main event, Philip Bowes, 20-3, takes on Akeem Ennis-Brown, who's 13-0. That one's for the vacant British super lightweight title and the Commonwealth super lightweight title over 12. So that should be interesting. So we end there at the preview part of the show, or on the preview part of the show at the Production Park Studios in Yorkshire, United Kingdom. But that's about everything for this week's discussions. We did the review part. We talked at length about Dillian Whyte and Alexander Povetkin. We of course brought in our first guest, and our sole guest I should say, the undefeated heavyweight Jared Anderson. We talked about the news, and this is the end of the preview part. So yeah, just before I sign it all out, as I do the ending every week alone, Eddie. If you want to have a closing word, obviously we've gone through this and haven't gone to you with your segment, so I'm apologising for that. We will definitely revisit that, whether it be next week or the week after. But we've spoke here about the fights from last week, and you've kind of had more to offer to the discussions of it. It's been fun. It's been a lot like the shows we sort of did pre-pandemic.
Right. It's very, very similar to it. I like it. I mean, even the pandemic version of the show is actually good, with the lockdown, knockdown, and us talking about, the career. But, it's overall just a good, informative talk, for the listeners. I mean, you're getting a lot of good information, getting, of course, opinions. These are opinions, a lot of these things, but, it's a lot of good info along with opinions. So it's nice to hear someone, like us, you're getting it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, with a fighter like myself being involved. And then you're getting a good pundit here. Joey's becoming a really good guy to go to for information. Mm-hmm. Shoot, he knows more about about the current fighters than I do. So, it's a good thing altogether, Joe. And I'm enjoying being a part of it. And it's only going to get better from here.
Wow, that was nice to listen to. That's my favourite part of the show there, whereas that's the total opposite. The feeling that gave me was the total opposite to when I did the Trump impression earlier on. So that's nice to get a balance. It's nice to get a balance. Yeah. But like I say, Eddie, thanks once again. It is always a pleasure sharing the mic, if you like, with you. So thanks once again, Eddie, for your input this week. Okay, and this wraps up episode 254 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our sole guest, the undefeated heavyweight prospect, Mr. Jared Anderson. One piece of news that has broken whilst we've been recording the show is that MTK Global have signed former world champion Paul Butler on an advisory deal. I'm wishing Paul, of course, all the best with that. A friend of the show. We had him on a few weeks ago as well. So all the best to him and, of course, MTK for that link up there. The Prediction League was back on the weekend. I, again, forgot to include it till the very end of last week's show. And, again, I've forgotten till the end of this week's show. But here are the results, basically. You, the listeners, got 1 out of 5 predictions correct, which was Katie Taylor to win on points. I got 2 out of 5 predictions correct, which were Katie Taylor to win on points and Shakan Pitters to win on points. But the mystery man himself, Mr. Ayaz Sumra, came out of the dark, and wherever he is, he did manage to get 3 out of 5 right, which were Katie Taylor on points, Shakan Pitters on points, and Chris Congo by knockout. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.